You're listening to Custard TV.
You are listening to the Custard TV podcast. It's been 8 weeks, and we now know. Broadchurch has finished. It is over, or so we thought, until that last...
Or is it?
Oh my god. Right, let's do this, let's do this thing that I suggested earlier. One word to describe your opinion of the finale. Matt, you start. One word.
Gripping, I would say.
Gary?
Epic.
Okay, my words don't match either of yours.
Gone.
Deflated.
Ooh.
Wow, really?
Yes.
As in you are, or
Yes, I am.
Well, okay. Let's explore Matt's first, and then we'll come round. Why?
Okay, I need therapy.
Yeah, that's
just so
fair
you
enough.
know.
Yeah, okay. Matt, why did you use your word?
I just found it completely sort of enthralling from that first, the first revelation. Like you were saying, Gary, when we were talking earlier, the thing where he had the phone, the tracker. From then on, I was just, because I was trying to make notes to write my review, and I just stopped completely. It just sort of drew me in this episode, and I was just taken.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello. I think Gary's having problems.
No, I'm there.
So,
I'm here.
No, he's here.
I'm here.
So, you were drawn in.
Yeah.
Gary, what about you?
Well,
You said epic.
Because I think he's gone for the emotional. I mean, there wasn't a 5-minute gap without a slowed down musical scene. From about the 15-minute mark, it seemed to me that every 5 minutes there was a slow-moving tracking shot.
It's usually Chloe who gets all those. The sister usually gets those.
And it was just... But I'm really intrigued by you, Luke. I'm really intrigued by Deflated. I have to almost forego my opinion to hear yours.
Oh, God.
God, that's never happened.
I know. I'm
You
absolutely shocked.
Gary.
I have to say why I'm deflated. It's been so good over the last 7 weeks. We've raved about it, particularly me. In fact, I have to say, so much so, that before it even started, and it was the ads after Coronation Street, I was giggling, like a kid giggle with excitement, just unable to stop giggling. And I just think...
Do you think there was
people have known this for weeks, and the only reason that I didn't go down this road with Joe Miller, which rhymes with killer, is because everyone else was going with it, and I had faith that it wasn't going to be that way, and to have the Series 2 thing possibly pop up seemed a bit of a cop-out. I don't know.
I don't believe there's a possibly. I don't think ITV would allow themselves to put Will return like a Bond movie.
But how can we wait a year? How can we wait a year for presumably Series 2, I know it's complete guesswork at this early stage.
Yeah.
Presumably it will be about the trial, I would imagine.
It might not even...
Because what else could they do? They can't do anything.
They might do something getting Hardy and Miller back together again to solve a case.
But you know what? I don't think I'd want to see it.
No, I don't see the trial, because to me the trial isn't much of an event unless new evidence comes to light. Because...
But do you know what? Do you know what I was thinking? Do you know that moment where it was such brilliant tenseness when David Tennant was walking up the path, he was getting the signal from the phone, and part of it, and he'd just said before, I've been here before, I was hiding under these cliffs when my parents argued. I had a whole theory in my mind, maybe Ashes to Ashes style, David Tennant had been dead this whole time, and just something a bit, I wanted to be left open-mouthed, and I wasn't even... I don't know. Maybe I literally deflated.
Your expectation was too high and too
yes, but I think a lot of people feel the same way as me today or tonight. Really? I would imagine. I would imagine they would do.
It depends how if they wanted to be surprised, then they would have felt like you would. Personally, I think it fits in with the entire feeling of Broadchurch, and what's made it different is the sort of emotional edge that it's had over other cop shows, and the fact that it was Joe, gave Ellie something else to do, and there was all the stuff with their families and the proximity of the killer, and you wouldn't have had that if there was that twist. And I think it played into the sort of the emotional edge.
I mean, I'm keen to buy that DVD for nothing else that I want to go back to episode 1, because I do believe he laid the groundwork in those early episodes, and I want to know where I didn't see that. But the key thing is when David Tennant says, and I don't know if they replayed it at the beginning of this episode or whether it came up somewhere, it could be anybody. Anybody is capable of it. And that, to me, was that big sign of nobody was clear until Joe Miller actually confessed.
Well, I'm going to bring in an actress from the show now, Simone Macaulay, who played Australian hotelier Becca Fisher. Hello, Simone. Thank you so much for staying up.
Yeah.
I know it's late in England where you are. Oh, I think she's gone again, possibly. That would have been good if she'd have stayed around.
The entire interview there, brilliant.
That was a great interview.
That was fantastic.
I'll try once more, then we'll go back to us non-actors.
Okay. Try opening with "Good day." Maybe she'll feel more at home and want to stay.
Okay. No, I'll leave it for now.
Okay.
But we'll see. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. Oh, hello.
Hello.
I thought because you were an actor and we're just normal people that you decided to say sod it. I'm not going to do it.
I was just going to answer you and hang up on you.
Yeah. In another Broadchurch twist. Yeah.
In another Broadchurch twist, actress hangs up. Yeah, it's not quite a cliffhanger.
I said to him, open with "Good day." Maybe you'd feel more at home.
Yeah, maybe so. Can I just ask you, Simone, what have you been watching it? Have you had response? I mean, we're only 20 minutes afterwards. Have you had response already and people talking to you about it?
Yeah, definitely. I just watched it. I mean, obviously, it's the first time I've seen it as well. So, and same for my housemate, the makeup designer on the show. So we're both just kind of in the living room, feeling a bit shattered about everything. It's a reminder. I mean, you forget. You know, we finished filming in December, and I don't know. I think with the frenzy that kind of surrounds or has surrounded the you know, who done it, the kind of hysteria around who could it be, and the searching for clues, and the whole you know, everyone taking a punt. I think that you can forget that it's a murder, and how, you know, and that it's actually a really, you know, kind of heavy thing. I don't know. Do you guys agree? I mean, I think that we were certainly like, whoa, that's right, that happened. Yeah.
I think for me personally, and I just said this, I know you're an avid listener to the podcast, and you'll probably be annoyed I've spoiled about what I'm going to say, but but that's just my ego, that really. No, I think I was expecting a massive twist, but only because that Joe had been at the top of all these polls that I've been looking at, and did that worry you at all, that people had sort of already gleaned something about that already? Because you knew, of course.
Yeah.
And did you sort of panic when you were seeing that people had somehow worked this out already?
I think a little bit. I think I was like, oh, it's not going to be the big twist that everyone loves, and I think you know, then you kind of have to just go, well, this is the story, and this is the that we played in. This is the story that we played in, and it stands up. It stands alone, and you know, there's no gimmick about it. It is what it is, and it's really, really, really awful, and it bears examination, even though everyone actually by the end sort of saw it coming. I think it still bears looking at for what it is.
On a repeat viewing, as Gary said just before I spoke to you, on a repeat viewing, you will see things in it that you perhaps weren't looking at initially.
Hi, Sir Rodon, Gary, and that's my point, is that I now want to go back and watch those, at least the first 3 episodes, and what did I miss? Because I think, like Luke, I didn't quite believe it was Joe until these later episodes, mostly because everyone else was saying it and I wanted it to be someone else. So I want to go back. I want to go back and see where did I go wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the thing is that the clue's not really in the actor, because Matthew didn't even know. So
no, it will be in little things. I'm sure.
It'll, it's yeah. There's just I think there were a few kind of big tells last week, and I think it really tipped people off. Just a couple of lines here and there, and it's a.
Do you feel relieved now that you can now talk about it? You feel a little bit of relief.
I sort of feel relieved that it's over.
It's not.
All the therapy sessions can stop now.
I mean, it's just like the whole nation has been going through this. This awful case, and now we kind of, everyone can breathe a sigh of relief. I mean, there is this kind of aftermath of feeling which it stirs up, and because of the nature of it, because of the nature of the crime, it's not something that you can just put down. It's a very kind of, I suppose it's timely in a lot of ways as well, and topical and relevant, and it's just not something that you can walk away from. But I am glad that the bubble has burst in a way.
Let me just tell you this: ITV have released on their press site 2 minutes ago that Broadchurch will return for a second series. It will go into the production next year, and the characters that will return are being kept tightly under wraps. So
there's the new secret we can't talk
happening.
about.
Well, there you go.
It's happening.
Your guess is as good as mine. It's happening.
Yes, yeah. But are they going to take my idea on board and call it Becca Fisher? It doesn't say so here.
Will you finally get that black cat you promised?
It's in the contract. I'll come back if I get the cat.
yeah.
I want the cat.
I'll have you audition the cat.
And the cigarette holder.
Yeah.
And the cigarette holder.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate you talking to us tonight. I really do.
No problem. Thanks for your interest in the show.
Obsession, I think.
Obsession with the show.
We need an 8-week holiday now, I think.
Exactly.
Maybe a course of therapy. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think group therapy as a nation is probably called. Yeah.
I think the neighbours have been worried about me because they haven't seen me for 8 weeks.
Certainly, I haven't been much out on a Monday night.
No.
Just at home, kind of rewinding and looking for clues, and
that's right. I'm watching it on ITV1 now for that.
That's a sickness.
Come on, weirdos, turn it off. Turn it off.
Oh, God.
No. Take care, Simone. Thank you ever so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Simone Macaulay, who played Becca Fisher, the Australian hotelier in Series 1 of Broadchurch. Let me read this.
Can I just interrupt very quickly?
Yeah, of course.
I listened to Front Row on Radio 4 this evening because Chris Chibnall tweeted that he was going to be on it. And the presenter actually brought up the point that he said in the DVD release, it's called Series 1. And you could tell Chris Chibnall was a little bit put back by that. Because apparently this is what Amazon and all the major DVD releases, that even if it's not a serial drama, Part 1 is always called Series 1. And had I have paid more attention to that, I could have worked out that twist. Because he was genuinely like, oh, really? Was it? Like, gosh, someone worked out my secret. How dare they?
And they do that with shows that don't always get a second series anyway. They do put Series 1 on.
Like, Biggs was Series 1, I remember the DVD.
Yeah,
that was a one-off.
That's not necessarily a...
No, but you could tell by the way he reacted that he thought someone had guessed it. He went silent and then went, oh, have they? And I didn't pick up on it until just now.
We're delighted to be commissioning a second series of Broadchurch. Those are the words of Peter Fincham. From the moment the murder scene was discovered, Viewers have become gripped by the series, and we're genuinely thrilled by the audience response. David and Olivia's performances and Chris's cleverly crafted scripts have made for truly compelling drama.
Okay.
Chris says, when I first talked to Peter Fincham and Laura Mackey, ITV's director of drama, about Broadchurch, I mentioned if people like it, there was a way to do we could do another very different story that we could tell afterwards. I'm absolutely thrilled we're going to tell that story too.
Maybe a prequel?
Oh God, I hope not.
Well, I don't know. No, I don't see a prequel. Do we see him? Do we see the details around the other case? Do you think we get a bit more?
You wouldn't like that though, would you?
I wouldn't like that
really
either.
wouldn't.
But I'm just wondering.
Maybe it's Psychic Will Mellor on the road.
Maybe it's the adventures of Pauline Quirk and her dog as they escape around the country.
Can I just ask what you actually thought of the murder itself and how the murder took place?
There's that little encapsulated 59 days earlier sequence which changed the whole show, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't.
Well, it did in the sense that it went back and it showed you everything. Did you like that? I mean, I think...
Yeah, I did.
I did as well. I was...
Do you know what I also found that I didn't like about it? And I agree I did like... And I think, to be fair to Broadchurch, and to be fair to everybody that's enjoyed it, I think because I've enjoyed it so much, I'm sort of tainted by it.
I think you're almost expecting too much because build-up has been so
if the
good.
killer wasn't...
But I actually, in that scene you're talking about, in the hut, I didn't actually like Danny.
Well, to be honest, what was strange was that's the first time you've seen Danny. Apart from lying on the beach, it's like Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks. You don't see her. She's dead in the first scene. So, as a character, you know nothing about Danny.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see, and as you say...
From what people were saying about, from...
Yeah.
Obviously second-hand.
But they were never going to say anything bad about a dead person. That was the thing. No one up until when his supposed best mate, is it Tom, said, I hate him, he's horrible. Up till then, no one had had a bad word to say about Danny.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think as a piece of TV drama, and take it, I think the problem with Broadchurch, and it's something I said before this finale, the problem is, and Simone sort of said it there, because the reaction to it has been so strong.
Yeah.
It's almost not being seen as a TV drama, as a piece of TV. It's almost become bigger than that. It's almost become an obsession for people. I can't imagine who those people are.
Yeah, but there might be three of them I can think of. Again, on the radio interview I listened to earlier, they talked about the fact that this kind of like weekly episodic drama might have been going out of fashion recently, in that with the invention of things like Netflix and particularly in DVD box sets where people can get their drama in big batches, and Amazon. But Broadchurch has shown us that basically you can do 8 episodes each week and build up a tension and build up a story to a crescendo.
There's an article on the Radio Times actually saying the same thing, that there's still room for... Because I know we had this conversation, didn't we, on the podcast a while back, about is this the end for series TV? We were talking about it when House of Cards came out. But then Broadchurch has come along and said, no, it's not the end, because, everyone's having these conversations every week. If you've got a good story and people are intrigued on where it's going, then we can wait. We can sort of...
Yeah.
So Matt, were you not? Was there not a tiny bit of you that was a bit? Oh, it's him, and everyone said it was him.
I don't know. I mean, I thought there would be, but I don't think there was. I think they did it. I think they did it well, and as I said earlier, I think they played into the theme that this isn't. It's not a show that sort of, for me, hung on maybe who did it so much as some other crime shows, because the characters have been so well drawn throughout, and I think the revelation of Joe Miller, even though a lot of people have been saying it from the beginning, was well done. And obviously it was mainly the motives behind it, because everyone was saying Joe Miller, but why him? We only thought it was him because he was one of the least obvious people, because he wasn't acting as dodgy as, say, like Nige or Susan or Jack Marshall. He was always one who was just sort of in the background, and that was sort of our reason for thinking maybe it's him because he almost seems too nice, and obviously he was.
Certainly there are certain things that we need to go back and watch, and one of them is that very key scene where where D.I. Hardy goes over to the Millers for dinner. It's going to be very interesting to re-watch that scene, knowing what we know, seeing if there's anything that the writer put in that scene.
And I was thinking there is that bit where he keeps topping up his wine, isn't there? There is a bit where Joe forces the wine onto Hardy. And that was one of the moments where I think, oh, maybe he's not as a goody-goody as he was. And then that was obviously the scene after he collapsed, didn't he, in the hotel? Yeah. Had all that wine.
Is he trying to throw...
What was all the burning boats about?
Right at the end?
Well, no, just in general. There's a whole... Even in the closure ads, they made a big song and dance about the burning boats. That's why the...
Didn't he say he'll be out in the boat, or wasn't there DNA in the boat, and that's why he had to burn it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it showed you that he didn't actually take him on a boat.
No, but there was.
He just carried him down.
But there was DNA, wasn't there, in there?
He did put him on a boat.
Yeah.
He drove the boat from where he was over to the cliffs to make it look as if he'd thrown him off, to make it look as if he's jumped off the cliff. Right. He was in the boat.
And that's why he laid a skateboard next to him as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. To make
Do you feel like there's anything they didn't answer for you?
Not really. I can't think of a loose end.
The postman?
Why had an argument with the postman?
Yeah.
Why all the clocks were wrong in the Latimer's house, almost like a power cut in the very first episode.
Well, yeah. But in every good series has got to have a few red herrings. You've got to throw I mean, that's the thing. He obviously... I know that in various interviews he said, I didn't write it with a killer in mind from the very beginning, but it became very quickly apparent. So maybe he did put some things in there thinking, well, if I don't use them, it won't matter.
Yeah, and the thing as well with Ellie's sister, I mean, they only touched on it in this episode. I don't really see why they needed it in there, because she didn't really add anything in terms of... She just said, oh, I saw someone throwing clothes away, and then we just saw it in the flashback. I don't think we needed that particularly.
Do you know what, mate, I actually thought when I saw this was I wondered if they shot the very last scene first. In other words, you know that 59 days earlier shot? That whole scene?
No, they didn't.
No, but it made me think, did they shoot that first, and therefore they had to write in this bit about the sister seeing him out of the window throwing the clothes, because it was in that 59 days earlier scene?
I happen to know that up to episode 8, nobody knew who the killer was. It was all kept tightly under wraps, so everything you saw was... Yeah.
There were two things in this episode that I didn't like. Number one was, and I know it was done for dramatic effect, and I put on Twitter and I stand by it, Olivia Colman has, if she doesn't get an Oscar if she doesn't get a BAFTA nomination, a BAFTA nomination.
There's a chance she won't get an Oscar.
No.
I'll just let you know now. So
they released this as an 8-hour movie, and
yeah. And even then, no one will get that far. If she doesn't get a BAFTA nomination for this, that will be incredible. But the scene where she is allowed to interrogate her husband would not have happened. That is.
Nor would Andrew Buchan's character go in to see.
But then someone brought that up on Twitter. I don't know who it was, and said like, they couldn't do this in a small village police office. Then you're wrong, sort of thing. In a small village jail. Because you're thinking, it's not a big place, is it? Broadchurch. It's one of those places where, the cop on charge might have let... I know it's not police procedure, but if, so-and-so said to so-and-so, let me have 5 minutes with him, I bought it to an extent because of it being that sort of... I
bought it as a dramatic method. I didn't buy it as realistic.
Yeah, no, but it's sort of... It's that sort of... It's a wonderful community that it's sort of slip you a backhand, let me have 5 minutes with the man who killed my son, sort of thing.
I also didn't like that last line of dialogue, which is I put out the word and the word was good, which I thought was a very clunky piece of dialogue.
As a dramatic shot, I admire the director for getting that brilliant shot of, as you say, Joe. Not I can't remember his name now.
Almost.
Danny Latimer's father, go for that one, staring through the prison gap, the wall, and then Joe Miller's looking back and seeing him. That's an amazing piece of cinematography.
Yeah,
Let's look.
So go on, Luke.
No, you carry on. You carry on. I can do what I want to do.
I can't.
You carry
I
on.
was going to say now. You split my train of thought.
Oh, well, I was just gonna look at the Broadchurch hashtag on
have a look.
Twitter.
I just
and
remember
see
what I was going to
people
say
are
now.
saying.
It's just briefly as well. They used that line of dialogue again. With the now Jodie Whittaker said it to Olivia Colman. Said to Pauline Quirk last week. How could you not know that was going on in your own house? I thought that was quite well. The people brought that up last week, obviously as an indication it was going to be either Joe or Tom, and obviously they used that to.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing as well with that whole scene was, I imagine a lot of people thought Jodie Whittaker's character is going to go out there and hug D.I. Miller.
Yeah, to
and I
sort
thought,
of do
no,
that
please don't.
first
And actually,
scene
at one
again.
point, I thought she was going to slap her. I thought her hand was going up and she was going to hit her.
Yeah, that first scene though, when well, not the first scene, but when they're on the beach, sort of thing. I thought they were going to recreate that with Olivia Colman being the one now who's sort of really, has lost everything, and Jodie Whittaker obviously has got obviously still lost a son, but she's got a baby on the way, and her family seems to be back together to an extent.
A lot of praise for Broadchurch, particularly for Olivia Colman on the Broadchurch hashtag. A couple of people sort of saying similar to me in that they hoped there was another twist coming, but on the whole, praise for everyone.
I don't think she needed it. I don't.
Well, it just shows you how it got you thinking, because even when she stepped on that slug, I was thinking to myself, that's got to be something to do with it, because why would they zoom in on a stumping on a slug?
Because
maybe that
he's
was
trying
like
to distract
the butterfly effect or something.
He's trying to distract you. This is what you said about the clocks and the, all those little bits. He's trying to distract you. He's clever, Chris Chibnall. He's making you think one thing when actually he wants you to think another. It's distraction. It's like a magician. It's the sleight of hand.
But I think think that people who've been wanting all these big twists, I don't think like Broadchurch really needed them. Some programs need it to sort of have that gimmick, or like films as well need it to have that memorable like finish with the twist. But I think Broadchurch has been sort of stunning throughout, and the characters, and as you said,
we're not going to get a Sixth Sense type ending.
No, I know. I think you were disappointed mainly because it was who everyone's thought it would be.
Yeah.
I think
that was it really. I think in the age before Twitter, that would have been a shock.
Yeah, before Twitter.
I think in the age...
Deck spoiled it, didn't he? That's what Deck thought. Is it all Deck's fault?
Everything's Deck's fault, really. Whether talking Broadchurch or anything, it's just everything's his fault. But I think in the age before social media, where everyone could have their say on who it was, when you'd perhaps talk to somebody in a shop or just a family member.
25 websites running the same poll.
And I can't help but think it's...
But to be honest, Joe Miller wasn't the top of the poll every week, particularly on the Radio Times one.
And as I said before, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it was people were thinking it mainly because he wasn't acting as suspiciously, and there wasn't any the Chris Chibnall wasn't leading you towards.
And I think the thing is that people always went back to the fact that Tom had deleted emails and texts, and we had no idea why.
Yeah,
and there was that connection.
But
they knew that there was something more with that, and it never got sorted out.
You two were saying about things that didn't really sit right with you. The one thing for me was it turned out Will Mellor was psychic, which just
I never doubted that.
It just seems in a program,
even on 2 Pints of Lager, I thought he must be psychic.
Do you know what I mean? Though in a program like this,
I know exactly what you mean.
Very like realism, having a psychic character, or at least someone who. He said, Danny told me there was the boat and there was someone who you knew really well, and they were both those things. And the fact... Sorry, go on.
I just want to add that I have to say how impressed I am with ITV. Not only did they commission...
Oh, you'll be saying the complete opposite in a couple of weeks when Murder on the Home Front...
when I saw what was replacing...
Life of Crime
and Job Lot.
Yeah.
Yes, but they're really on top of things.
They commissioned a show... with an 8-week turnaround, a slow show, that gave, didn't give anything away in episode 1, but delivered at the end. Number 2, they have promoted the heck out of this. They have really pushed it. And number 3, they gave tonight's episode that big fight feel.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of like, this is a television event, like we said. Like, they even gave it a 5-minute overrun. Have you ever heard of that?
Why the 5-minute overrun?
Because they wanted everybody watching that bit that said Broadchurch will return. They wanted that at 10:05. Because they wanted that key audience. That's when people are watching television between 9 and 10.
The news went, hey, what's all this Broadchurch nonsense?
Yeah.
I just want to watch them.
Can I just say, the other thing I noticed as well is that, you know, I know he went very safe in the sense that this was not a child abuse case. He was very clear to make sure, you know, I didn't do anything, you know, I didn't abuse him. There could have been a story in the press that could have made them change or do a good cop to this very easily.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
3 episodes or something. So
There's
again, MTV showed a lot of faith.
There's something similar coming up in Scott and Bailey on Wednesday as well. A similar sort of they may need to change that, but obviously that doesn't affect it as much as it does with Broadchurch. What I will say as well, I read that, and Luke, you might be able to sort of shed some light on it, that Chris Chibnall was originally going to go to Sky Atlantic with it instead of ITV. I don't know.
I think, to be fair, I think he went everywhere with
Yeah.
But his original thoughts was somewhere like Sky Atlantic rather than a mainstream channel, because he didn't think the mainstream channel would want it. And then,
do you sort of feel? I mean, do you sort of feel a bit like me about the second series, in as much as it's done so well?
I don't think
is that why they're recommissioning it, because it set
the
TV world on?
Unless I mean, again, going back to say sort of like The Killing or something. I mean,
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, they used, obviously, at the second series, you know, you've got Sarah London, she comes back to her old precinct to solve a new set of murders. And obviously now you've got Hardy and Miller, who are going their separate ways and both leaving Broadchurch. So they could do something with that. But then, I mean, it's, again, the fact that Broadchurch is different in that these characters have had so much of an impact, and it would be different for them coming back to the community of Broadchurch because it's so close. And I don't. Maybe it won't be set in Broadchurch, but then why call it Broadchurch?
Well, I think the problem now is that, you know, the second episode of the second series of The Killing featured very few people from the first series.
Yeah.
So if you're going to use that model, really, you're saying it would just be Hardy and Miller that you think would return, and maybe you bring in maybe 1 or 2 other characters. Maybe you could bring in Pauline Quirk's character, who could just Susan could just turn up wherever they just happen to be by some chance, you know, and it literally just be a "what are you doing here" moment, but.
Yeah, it is interesting that they are doing one, because I just think it's something that seemed like it was a standalone story and that it doesn't need it. And I think, Luke, you'll say that it might tarnish the reputation of this first one, which I think it.
Well, I can tell you sitting here now, I'm not excited about Series 2.
Well, let me tell you why you will be, because it doesn't go into production until 2014. It's not like they're starting it now. They're going to let it wait. They're going to build that tension again. They're going to promote the DVD release. They're probably going to re-show it on ITV3 in 6 months' time. Okay? It's going to be on in America. We can spoil it for the Yanks, don't forget that.
Okay, great pleasure in that, don't you?
Dear America,
don't you worry.
Thank you very much for beating us at all sporting events. By the way, it was Joe Miller.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll change it in America.
Well, maybe they will.
They may well do.
They changed The Killing, didn't they?
They won't be able to understand Bristol accents.
When they did The Killing in America, they completely changed The Killer, which a lot of people were very annoyed about. So
somebody on Twitter here says, I can confirm Broadchurch Series 2 will return. Broadchurch 2 and the Temple of Doom is the title.
Broadchurch 2, more broader.
More churchy.
Matt said that earlier.
Maybe it'll be Arthur Darville's character then. It'll just be Church.
Yeah. Maybe he'll be
no more broad, just the Church.
Yeah. I think my opinion all comes from, like I said at the start, I was giddy about. I mean, literally, so much so that we were out today, right? We're only 2 hours away where we were, and I was panicked that I wasn't going to be back for 9 o'clock. Okay. Right, we left at 5.
Let me ask you.
And I was like,
let me ask you this: what would have satisfied you? What kind of twist would have made you go?
Well,
wow. What did you want?
I didn't know what I wanted until David Tennant started talking about he'd been there before, and that's because the last finale I was really excited about that delivered for me was the end of Ashes to Ashes.
Yeah.
Which, fair enough, is a completely different show, but the ending of that completely blew me away.
Yeah.
I had no idea where it was going to go, and I didn't want Broadchurch to be like that, but at least some twists and turns. At least, I mean, you've done so well up till now. One or two final stings in the tail, or
do you think
shocks,
had he not got Series 2, he would have done that? Do you think he's played it slightly safe because he knows he can do it again? Maybe.
Well, they can't do another investigation with the same characters.
No, but they can do another case.
I agree on that. I agree. It can't just be all the same. I think it's just going to be that scene with Hardy and Miller where they're both like, you know, we're former detectives. That seemed to me to be setting up something like our second series. That's the only place.
Do you remember? Do you remember the television series Messiah?
No.
Loved it.
Loved it. Now the first series of that is based on a book that's again is an amazing twist at the end. I think that's a series where you really didn't know who was doing it until you got to the very final scene. There were more series of Messiah featuring the same characters, and some of them, in some people's opinion, not mine, were better than the original. Do you not think Broadchurch can take the characters and the quality of the writing and move on?
No.
Okay.
Do you think they're doing this purely?
We get to find out.
I think they're doing it purely because it's done so well.
Not that, like, Chris had an idea for a second series. I suppose when you interviewed him, he said it was going to just be a standalone series.
It was one of the questions I asked. It was one of the questions a lot of people have asked. And he said categorically, I always knew how it was going to end. It was a one-story thing. We wanted 10. They gave us 8. It was a one-series arc. That was it. It's not. He actually says in that interview there will not be a Broadchurch 2, quite categorically. And I just want. I mean, it says in the press release
the series won't retain. It just says like Broadchurch, the area. Maybe they'll host like Songs of Praise.
Well, it said in the press release, which you can listen, you can read the press release now on the custardtv.com. Go and read the press release of what they've said about Series 2. The last drama that did this well for ITV takes us back to Whitechapel in January of 2009.
Can we do a little rating prediction?
The adult do quite well though.
It did do well, but I'm talking. I think they're talking series. Yeah, series debut and series.
Can we do a little ratings prediction? Do you think this will hit the 10 million plus mark?
I'm not good at guessing.
Not on overnights, but probably on consolidated.
Yeah, but when they do consolidated,
plus one and online,
ITV Player and all that sort of. Can you tell people that didn't see it that 10-minute clip that is exclusive to ITV Player? You can watch it now. What was the essence of that?
Oh, what, the Facebook one? No, it's like a minute and a half. It's not very long at all, and it's at the wake they do, which is in between the funeral and the scene on the beach with all the lights.
Yeah.
And there's two little bits. You get Nige and Danny's dad just talking, drinking a beer, just saying, you know, what are we going to do now? Business is good and all that. And then there's a scene with David Tennant and the reporter. And she kind of goes, why didn't you tell me what happened in the other case? And he went, I didn't feel it was my place. And you did such... And then she said, well, why did you give me the exclusive? And he said, because you fought so hard for that family. You did the right thing. You kept attacking me, and that was the right thing to do. And then that was it. There wasn't much. It was a deleted scene from the DVD, really. I think it was just to keep the momentum going.
The reason I am deflated, I'll say it again before we close... It was such a ride, this programme. I've never been more
giving you an
into...
emotion. Isn't that... I mean, I remember when I walked out of the film
Depression
and I was just emotional.
Yeah, but I don't feel emotional in a good way.
But that's not a problem. You are emotional. This has evoked an emotion.
It is for the people who live with me, Gary. We only talk once a week.
We'll send round the therapy course for them then, shall we?
No, and everyone else I was watching it with sort of went, oh...
Were they drawing
just that sort of,
there, or were they drawing...
Do you know what, though? Do you know what I think would have changed it?
Go on.
Actually, you asked... Not what I would have wanted. It could have been the same story. But to keep it quiet to us until Andrew Buchan's character opens that little hole in the door.
I don't know how you do that, but yes, but...
That would have been brilliant. They would have all known,
But then you
And
wouldn't
we
have had
wouldn't
that
have.
scene with Olivia Colman, would you?
No,
which I didn't like personally.
but that's the clip they'll show when
That's
she
it,
picks up.
BAFTA scene.
Yeah,
Is it her vomiting and kicking someone
yeah,
to death?
it is.
She's done far better than that in this series, I must say.
But I think I don't know.
Someone needs to hug me.
Can we do it?
Not in a Joe
Yeah,
Miller
but then
sort of
you won't be
way.
back for the next podcast if not.
I may not be back. I'm teaching on the edge now
It's as
anyway,
if
as
the
it is.
last podcast wasn't you being violent. Now we've got you being unhinged.
I know. I go through all stages here.
You're unravelling
Well,
before
what-
our eyes, Luke.
Whether you agree with me, whether you agree with Matt, whether you agree with Gary, there's one thing we all agree with unanimously. Broadchurch was, and is, an incredible piece of well-written, well-paced, and just well-exciting TV.
Well exciting.
It really was. Well exciting. Really well exciting.
We are in an absolute boon time for great British
We're
television
not.
drama
We're
at
over the
moment.
boom time, sadly.
We're sort of in the slump, the summer slump.
Yeah, we've
Well,
the
no,
boom time
no,
finished about
no,
5 past 10.
I stand by the
Yes.
fact that over these last few weeks we've had this, we've had Endeavour. Okay, we
Yes,
might
but the
come
slump
towards
is
the
coming,
end.
trust me.
Yeah, after Endeavour finishes though, Gary, I say we're heading towards the summer slump now.
I agree, but Broadchurch is the jewel in the crown of these first 2-3 months.
Broadchurch, we'd love to hear your views. You can get Gary on Twitter like this.
At the Gary Show.
You can get Matt on Twitter like this.
Like at Matt's TV Bites.
And me on Twitter, at Luke Custard TV. I was too busy thinking about how I could get like this in there. It didn't work. The Custard TV podcast, where we talk about the best and the worst on the box, will be on Thursday, or you can catch it on the website later on this week. For all the latest TV news, reviews and interviews, go to thecustardtv.com, and the DVD for Broadchurch Series 1 that Gary will buy
Yep.
with his own money.
When will he watch it though?
Well, yeah, that's a good point, yeah. And Matt
Before
only was the
Series
first
2.
one, so...
That's true.
It's going to be out from my friends at Acorn Media on the 20th of May. That's a Monday. I will be behind Gary in the queue buying my copy.
The way to go.
So,
Can I just say that the way
Well-
this podcast should end, is if you hadn't
Yeah.
already guessed it, is that somebody at the end should come up and go, the Custard TV Live will return.
He's just said that.
yes,
Oh.
I did just say it.
Just-
Not in so many words, but you've ruined my whole
really?
spiel there.
Oh.
Maybe just end with like a sort of tracking thing like David.
Yeah, and with that heartbeat.
Do you know also what I thought? I thought that David Tennant might die
I
of
said
his
that on
condition
Twitter. I thought the end scene
before
might
he
have a
got,
heart attack.
but not before he caught the killer, but before he got a chance to reveal it to everyone and become a hero.
At the press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, before that, before he had the chance, because the thing at the beginning said we will catch Danny's killer, and he did, but he may not have had his moment to reveal it.
Maybe
to
like
everyone.
when he was in the shed with Joe, like you know.
Yeah.
Well, not then. That would have been too annoying. But certainly before he had the chance to reveal it to the community, as that was his one thing
and again,
to achieve.
maybe if he hadn't got the second series, that's something maybe he would have considered.
And you need the stuff.
Are they going to be able to tie down David Tennant and Olivia Colman again? I don't think they will.
Maybe they won't be in all of it. Maybe he will die in the next series, in the first episode.
I don't see why they wouldn't come back though, because it's been really good, you know, successful for both of their careers. I mean, especially Olivia Colman. I mean, I think they'd make time for it, and as you say, it's not filming till next year. It starts filming.
Well, because David
it's gonna be
Tennant's filming
much
Doctor
harder.
Who right now, isn't he?
But again, I mean,
Oh.
it's like a year's time. They probably, you know, they've probably got room in their diaries, haven't they? I don't know. I am not. I don't work. I don't represent either of them currently. So.
Matt's views are not those of Olivia
You are
Colman,
open-
David
you are
Tennant,
open to the
Chris
idea,
Chibnall
is what
and
you're
Lighty.
saying, Matt.
I do represent Vince the dog though. So.
Yeah, we know what happened to him.
I think I could just...
Also, what was the crossbow all about? We never heard anything about the crossbow
Well, he,
again. All
he
the
was
pheasants.
hunting for pheasants, wasn't he?
Of course he was. Right, okay, take care. Broadchurch is back. No, Broadchurch isn't back. We're back.
We'll be back.
I'm so angry you would not
Here you
know.
go. The Custard TV podcast will return.
There you go. Thank you, Matt. Bye-bye.